Seductive, graphically sensual, they will assault your senses. They are incorporated. They will bend your mind, shatter your sanity, and seal your fate. Lethal Ladies Inc. Try us on for size. We will take your breath away. Watching movies, we will get chick. And again, funny, strange, hysterical, or just plain bad. This weekend just got amazing. It's a watch-along weekend. Horror and sci-fi, comedy and more. We got it all this weekend. This weekend just got amazing. It's a watch-along weekend. Horror and sci-fi, comedy and more. We got it all this weekend.
Howdy, gang, and welcome to another watch along weekend. Tonight, we're going to be watching April Fool's Day, and I am going to be watching the Scream Factory Blu ray of April Fool's Day. In fact, let me just try to do y'all a solid here, as an old supervisor of mine once said. And I should have done this beforehand, but I did not. There we go. So if you have Paramount Plus, you can watch it. Well, that's not really helpful, is it? I was trying to find y'all a copy that didn't have people talking all over it and all that stuff, but not really having luck with finding that. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I don't want to waste too much time, but you're welcome to be in here even if you don't have a copy to watch. Feel free to enjoy listening to me talk about it tonight. DePote, you say I've seen the original. Yes, this is definitely the original from 1986. I do not like that remake. If that's your thing, the remake's your thing, then that's fine. And if you wanted me to review it for Movie Roulette, I would definitely watch it. But as far as something that I would watch when I think of April Fool's Day, I'm going to stick with the original here. So, I'm going to look one more place. Hold on, folks, because I want to, I kind of want to cover all my bases before we I keep having to put 1986 after it, otherwise it gives me April Fool's Day, jokes and pranks and don't know what that had to do with anything, but a lot of these are just episodes that people did um, for April Fool's Day. But well, it is available on Shutter. If you have Shutter, you can watch it that way. Um, and I am going to somewhere else. Steve tells me is IMDb will a lot of times tell you where on the internet or otherwise that things will be playing or where they're streaming at. So they say AMC Plus, Paramount Plus. You can rent or buy on Prime Video. And of course, like I said, it is streaming on Shutter, which, and I don't know, my internet was, hopefully I'm not like stopping and starting and sputtering and all that stuff. Okay, so if you've got one of those choices or you do have the Blu-ray, then feel free to watch along with me. I promise, folks, I'm going to get better at trying to get y'all links to these things whenever I can. I've been, going one way and then the other and all this stuff. One of my devices went off and oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. When is this rain going to stop? I know I've been complaining about this rain, but there is a chance of rain on Monday too. We have had rain since Wednesday. And I'm like, am I going to have to build an ark here now? This is ridiculous. I hope that you guys and gals that are living other places are not having this much rain. Okay, so now that I got all that out of the way, and I will remind y'all where I'm queued up to before we get this started. Get a little housekeeping things out of the way here before we get the movie started. But there should be some more Dick's Picks, more cannon fodder, more They're All Messed Up coming up this coming week. There will not be watch alongs this coming weekend because I do them every other weekend, but continue to vote. We've got a 2-way tie on one of them. Continue to vote for your favorite film for me to do a watch along the weekend after this coming weekend. I'm planning on doing a movie Munchies though this coming weekend. That should drop at some point on Sunday, possibly Saturday if I'm lucky. I'm going to be making Children of the Cornbread Salad. So if you're not sure what cornbread salad is or what's in it, you want to tune in and watch me make that. So that will be coming up. Again, me and Candace are planning on doing a Friday Foolish, but the way things have been going with both of us, not just one of us, it's possible that we may not be able to have a Friday Foolish on Friday as much as I would like to have them every Friday. Sometimes things happen, life happens, right? So hopefully we can, but I don't want to say, yes, guaranteed we're going to on Friday. The movie roulette promotion is going on right now. I guess you could call it a promotion during any live streams, and this includes these watch alongs. If you give a $5 or more super chat, you can pick any movie for me to watch and review on an upcoming episode of Movie Roulette. So keep that in mind. I want to keep doing these movie roulettes. I really think once we get the ball rolling with this, that this is going to be a really fun thing. But I've been wrong before, and I'm sure I'll be wrong again. But it was my first thought that, hey, this will be a fun thing. Um, let's see what else. Oh, for those of you not in the know, I have been working on my first plushie of Poe. Now, granted, he's not going to look exactly like the guy here. I mean, I love Poe. I love Poe in all forms. He is the official mascot of the Deadites on Deck shop. Movie Munchies now has its own mascot as well, RJ, the friendly Movie Munchies monster, whose name is inspired by Kurt Russell's character on John Carpenter's The Thing of RJ McCready. But I have been working on can't talk. I'm mixing and matching Poe and plushie. This is the headpiece or pieces, the front and back piece for the Poe plushie. He's not going to be finished tonight, folks. I think I overextended myself today and, had way too much stuff to do and not enough hours in the day to do it in. And I slept in today. And Steve had a little issue. I wouldn't really say he had a wreck today, but they have had barriers up at various places in Louisville since the flooding. But Steve headed out early this morning to go to the gym, and he came up over a hill and was not expecting this barrier. So he could have ran into the barrier, but instead he swerved. His vehicle hit the curb, messed up one of his tires, bent some kind of rod. I don't know what it is. I don't know what, all the ins and outs of vehicles. And he was okay. He is okay. It was just very stressful for him. Had to have his vehicle worked on. I think it cost him all told about $800 or so, between $600 and $800. I can't even remember right now. So we had that excitement this morning. But I'm just thankful that Steve's okay. I said, Steve, I know it's upsetting that your vehicle got messed up and you've had to pay out all this money to get it fixed, but you're still here. I said, that to me is the most important thing, is that it could have been so much worse. So he says he may change gyms. He's definitely not going to go to the gym anymore on weekends before it gets fully daylight. To try to minimize the chances of this happening again. So, yeah, we had that. I had to do my taxes today because we're getting down to the wire. And guess what, folks? I'm getting a grand total of $2 back from the good old United States government. $2. I used to get several $100s back. I think the days are gone of getting that. I don't know how y'all do on your taxes, if you have to pay in or you get a medium amount back, or but I'm getting a grand total of $2. All that work for $2, but I didn't have to pay any in, either in federal or state, which is good. And for $15 and something, I was able to get them both filed. So, if you want to know what company I use, it's Free Tax USA, I believe, is the company that I use, and I did that online. But hopefully, the majority of you guys and gals got more back than I did. I think Steve got like $29. I got $2. So between the two of us, we got about $31. All right. Oh, also be sure to hop on over to deaditesondeck.com, my horror shop. Tell them Poe sent you. Um, and like I said, I showed you the plushie. I'm realizing that I'm going to make a lot of mistakes before I get a plushie that I'm really going to be proud of. Something that, I thought I was being smart using this material. Um, but what I didn't realize is it's not the same on either side. So that's going to be one of the challenges. But I have some other material and I've got plenty of supplies. And so I'm going to try different material and seeing what I can do. I'm going to go ahead and finish him, even though I see the mistakes I'm making here and there. But like I was talking to Candace, she said, you're going to make mistakes. And these videos I'm watching, they say you're going to make mistakes, especially if you're new at plushie making. And I'm singing and I'm like, okay, it's not the end of the world, right? I can keep getting better and better at these. I made mistakes when I first started doing graphic design. I still make mistakes here and there, but I'm not going to rip out all the seams and start, fresh. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to finish this Poe and then I'm going to move on from there. But I've got a couple of promotions going on the site right now. One of those is if you buy one candle, you can get one free using the promo code CandleCraze25 at checkout. The other option is, or the other promotion is, you can get $10 off of any order of $30 or more using the promo code SlasherSpring25 at checkout. And if you're not a horror fan, I know I've got a lot of horror products on the site. If you're not a horror fan, I do custom work. Just let me know using the handy dandy form on the homepage of the site or the shop. And just let me know what it is that you want. I'll quote you a price if we can meet in the middle or whatever and both agree on price and what you want. And that I feel like I can produce what you want. Then once I get the money from you, I will start to work on your product. All right. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and we'll get started with the movie here in just another minute or so. But I am queued up 14 seconds in on my Scream Factory Blu-ray. It says Paramount, a Gulf Western company. So, thought I heard somebody coming. So I'll give everybody another minute or two. I usually don't get these things started till about 7:20 or thereabouts. Anyway, I like to give people enough time to get the movie, get it queued up if they're going to be watching along tonight. It already looks like we're going to have more people than last night. I'm not sure what was going on last night. People must have had a variety of things to do other than hanging out and doing a watch along. But that's okay. Hopefully some of you or many of you that didn't get to watch it live last night will get to watch it on the replay. So I think we'll go ahead and get started here. So if you come in a little bit later and need a timestamp, someone, me or otherwise, will be glad to give that to you. Also, if you come in here and it's barring it not being a few seconds before the movie's over and you want to join me live on this watch along, just let me know and I will make sure that you get the link. And now, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get the countdown, get this party started with April Fool's Day. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, press play, and we're off and running here. So this is Deborah Goodrich. There are actually two Deborahs in this. Deborah Goodrich is the blonde here. Deborah Foreman is also in this. I affectionately refer to them as the two Debras. Um, and we're going to be introduced to Clayton Roner or Ronner, however you pronounce his last name. Sorry, Clayton, if I pronounce your name wrong. But he was in, more than one film with Deborah Goodrich. He is the man behind the camera here who is filming Nikki, which is Deborah Goodrich's character, and Chaz. Keep in mind, this is 1986. These are supposed to be upper middle class or high society type people. And there is Amy Steele, who was a veteran of a lot of horror movies during this time period. Thomas F. Wilson there, that a lot of you will remember as playing Biff on the Back to the Future movies. You see him there on the left. And Griffin O'Neill, Tatum O'Neill's brother, was there on the right playing Skip. And here's the other Deborah. This is Deborah Foreman, who's playing Muffy. There's another like Valley Girl type name. We've got Muffy and we've got Chaz and names like that. Kit, that's Amy Steele's name. Rob is her boyfriend's name. Arch. So we're going to find out that Muffy has invited all the people that you saw waiting for the ferry, her friends, to this house that she has inherited. Her mother is deceased. Her father is evidently still alive. And here's something else, though, that I always thought was odd about this movie, but it does not detract from the movie. So you're going back in the past, and this appears that this is Muffy when she was a child, and it's her birthday, and I'm guessing that's her parents there. They're sitting facing her. And she is going to get a Jack in the Box. Everybody remembers the Jack in the Boxes, right? So this is what they're giving her right now. I mean, it kind of comes into play again, but there's really no payoff to this, in my opinion. So she's found this old Jack in the Box. She's, turning the handle on it, and it's making the music. And then it's going back and forth between her, Muffy now, and Muffy when she was a little girl. And she's opening this present. One of the things I can't understand, though, too, is where are the kids at her birthday party? Why are there just adults standing around eating cake and ice cream, and there's no kids? I mean, did she not have any friends that were kids? So that is a cute little Jack in the Box. That almost seems like a custom made one. I mean, I had Jack in the Boxes as a kid, and none of them ever looked like that. So we're seeing young Muffy turning the handle on the Jack in the Box. And we're seeing older Muffy, grown Muffy, doing the same thing. But then she stops. And we're zooming in on this. And a monster comes out of there. And you hear her scream, and you hear the adults, I guess, laughing. So now we're back to present day, and everybody's waiting for the ferry to come take them to Muffy's house. And these are kind of odd subtitles on this one because instead of saying Chaz is saying like "Here comes the fairy," it says "man." It's like, well, they have names. So we're getting introduced to Nan here, who Nan has been invited by Muffy, Nan Youngblood, um, but the others don't seem to know her, and they don't really know Skip. Skip says he's Muffy's cousin. So Chaz comes over and starts flirting and telling her she has great legs. Nikki kind of calls him off. Arch is turned on by Nan right here, and he's going to get her bags and stuff and going to carry them to the ferry. Unfortunately, Nan talks a little bit too much and starts talking about she made costumes for Muffy and some of the others in Drama Society when they were doing a play. That completely turns everybody off, and Arch just puts down her luggage and leaves, which I think is funny. Chaz is, you know, telling these guys that their flies open and their penis is hanging out, and it's an April Fool's Day joke. So we're also getting introduced to Cal, the ferryman. And Kid is worried because Rob, her boyfriend, has not showed up. So we're getting introduced to Rob there on the left. And Harvey, aka Hal, who's another person that the rest of the gang doesn't really know. He's in the econ class with Muffy, and she has also invited him for this weekend getaway. And Chad says, "You're friends with Muffy St. John?" And he says, "Yeah, we sit together in Econ 345. And so evidently Hal has a Bruce Springsteen button that people kind of make fun of him for. He's like, "Springsteen's still the boss." And when everybody looks at him, just deadpan, he just takes the button off. So Skip says, "I'm a distant cousin. Otherwise, I would not have been invited because Muffy never mixes friends, family, and friends." And they say, and Kid says, "Well, to protect her family." And he says, "No, to keep her friends." Now, I am not familiar with this game that Skip and Arch are going to play, which they call Stretch. I think it's also called Mumbledy Peg and other various names. I don't understand what the allure is of it or anything like that, but apparently maybe in the 80s and 70s as well, this was something that guys primarily played. So, from what I can tell, one person throws the knife down and then they got to stretch and I guess not fall over as they're stretching to reach the knife. And I guess the farther away that the knife is thrown from the two people playing, the harder it is to stretch and get the knife without falling over. I see a version of it played on the original I Spit on Your Grave as well. The sleazy guys that end up attacking Camille Keaton's character in I Spit on Your Grave are playing that at the gas station. So Then has all these books because she's behind and she's got to do some reading before finals when they get back. But all Chaz is interested in is, looking at naked ladies. So he's Boudoir is evidently the magazine, this porno magazine that he's looking at, adult magazine, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if that's a real magazine because I'm not into those types of magazines. Perhaps it is. I'm familiar with, not that familiar. I don't look at them on a regular basis, but I've heard of them, Playboy, Penthouse, Hustler, um, what's like that. Here's something else, and maybe some of you guys can help me out with this. In a lot of movies from the 80s, I would see scenes where guys would sniff girls' hair. Does that have any special significance? I've seen it done in Christine as well. Um, I believe Arnie is smelling of the cheerleader's hair as she's talking to his friend Dennis Gilder. So it appears that Skip and Arch are not getting along now. Um, and it appears that Arch threw the knife and it went into Skip's stomach. Skip falls into the water, and some of the guys are jumping in there to go after Skip. And we find out, it's an April Fool's Day prank. You can't have a horror movie called April Fool's Day without having a few pranks, right? So we see that Buck, the ferryman, the other ferryman, besides Cal, he's already in the water. And Cal says, Buck, come on out of there. I need your help. He's like, nah, I do it from here. So we see Buck is trying to get this rope on the dock, and he keeps missing, unfortunately. We're seeing that the boat's getting ever closer to Buck. So Cal yells out, Buck, look out. Oh no. Could it be another trick? I don't think so. Oh my. He does not look good. Oh, sorry. Sorry, gang. So Cal gets into the cop's boat and takes off with a still screaming Buck who's saying, they did it, they did it. Now they're at the place where Muffy's going to pick them up, take them to the house. She, what's going on? And the cop's saying, Pranks, tricks. Ask your friends. And he's asking her, have you heard anything from your dad? Because she said he's in Sutton Place. So he says he needs to take the boat she has there because Cal sped off in his to take Buck to the hospital. So they're all driving to go to Muffy's house, and Skip is visibly upset. Kit tells him, you didn't know. I didn't know what. I have no idea. But it's not your fault, basically. And he makes the remark that Muffy, nothing bad ever happens to her. So you feel like there's quite a bit of animosity between Skip and Muffy. Okay, so she says next month when she turns 21, it's her first stage inheritance. And Hal wants to know, what's your second? To which Nikki says, taxes. And Muffy goes on to say, this is a very special place because we used to spend all our summers here before my mother passed away. So we've got some weird place settings here. There's, Barbie and Ken dolls there at everybody's place, and sporks, and there's napkins with little bunnies on them. And then there, of course, the standard sex jokes. And we see right after that, on the heels of that, we see a hot dog emerging from a package of mini hot dogs. And I believe the director said that he heard the girls talking, and they may have been doing like a sex quiz from a magazine just amongst themselves. And so he worked it into the movie. And of course, Nikki is the traditional sex pot. So her thing was the first time she had sex, it was painful and degrading. Wildly exciting, she had an orgasm, and then everybody just goes off. Um, so then now we're back out with Chaz and Arch. Um, yeah, Arch thinks he's suave. He thinks he's funny, and I guess in a lot of ways he is funny. Um, but he says he's on a mission to bed as many women as he can this weekend, and at least he's not lying, you know. And then he says, Nan's out of those first round draft picks. And Hal's exploring. He's exploring the library, it looks like. Oh, goodness, gang. Once again, this movie is not a very long one either. About an hour and 29 minutes. He's loading up on the cigars. Gang, y'all feel free, those of y'all watching along, please don't leave. I'm glad to have three of you in here. Um, but I've got to step away for a second, but y'all keep watching the movie, those of you that are, and I will be right back. All right, gang, I'm back, and I did get me an ice cream cone for a snack here. Hope those of you that are still in here don't mind. And even if you do mind, I've still got to eat something. So we're seeing the gang here supposedly having a nice dinner. So we can see that Nan was a little bit disappointed a little bit earlier. You can tell I've seen this movie many, many times. So even if I step away, I know what's happened. Nan gave a toast, and people tried to be polite, but they weren't really impressed with Nan's toast. But then they wanted Buffy or Muffy to do a toast, and everybody, of course, loved hers. And they had the dribble glasses as well there in that scene. So Nikki's asking Muffy if this is the bridal suite. And then they have a discussion because apparently they've cycled through, or at least Muffy and Nikki have cycled through some of the men in their friends group. And apparently Muffy was dating Arch, and then Nikki must have dated Arch. And now she's dating Chaz. And she said, it seems like, Muffy, it seems like you get to most of them first. And she said, but this time Chaz is mine. So, in other words, this is a nice way of saying, hands off of Chaz, he's mine. And Hal thinks that he's really going to have a merger in more ways than one with Muffy. But I think everybody as an audience, we as an audience would say, Hal, you don't got a chance. And he's going to take a liking to Nikki here as well. So I think, though, what Hal really wants is money. So he's opened up the closet to put some stuff away. And he sees a newspaper article. This stuff's going to come into play. He opens a drawer. There's more newspaper articles about car crashes. And apparently, Hal knows something about those. Now, I would have liked these backstories to have been expanded on a little bit, but they don't really go anywhere. They're a setup that never really goes anywhere. And we also see that Hal had an exploding cigar. And Nikki just got sprayed with water. Now, when Arch opens the medicine cabinet up, apparently Arch must have had a drug problem at one time or another. So who is leaving all this stuff around for them to find? Nikki's going to find some S&M type of stuff, it looks like. There's those big box pornos, guys. Arch is a total horn dog, apparently. So Rob and Kit discovered a painting with the eyes cut out hanging over one of those cat clocks where the eyes move back and forth. So this one pays off more by the end of the film than the other things that are found. Because we're going to see that Nan has apparently been taking a shower. She's in her robe. She comes out. She hears a baby crying. And you could probably guess why Nan seems to be so upset. And there's actually going to be a scene between her and Muffy here a little bit later where she says, "Was that why you invited me here? How'd you find out about it?" From one of his preppy friends. So apparently, um, Nan had to have an abortion due to becoming pregnant by a rich guy. And then apparently he didn't want to help her with the child, and she couldn't take care of the child by herself. And so, if these were pranks, these are really, especially the abortion issue, really cold-hearted pranks. They're not even pranks. That's just in bad taste. So now Rob's discovering when he turns one lamp off, another light comes on somewhere else in the room. And I don't know how somebody would know how, if Muffy's the one doing that, I don't think she's an electrical genius. I don't think she could figure out how to do this. So I never did understand that. I don't, maybe that's the one that's the main circuit. And he had to unscrew the light bulb while it was on. Because my thought was, why doesn't he why doesn't he turn that one off and undo the bulb? But maybe that wouldn't break the circuit. I don't know. Shows you how much I know. So that is the most bizarre sex position I've ever seen right there between Nikki and Jazz. I don't even know what they're trying to accomplish there. So we saw Arch in a trick chair earlier, and apparently in his room there's another trick chair. So we also see that Skip is apparently drunk and probably stoned. So I believe Skip is in the boathouse. Keep in mind, he's drunk and stoned. A little spooked, apparently. He's still got a knife. Cat just jumped in his face. And somebody just grabbed Skip. What they did with him, I don't know. I'm not sure what this exercise device is, fitness device. The Hal is evidently exercising. And he looks at Nikki, who, but honey, you should not be like open shirted, leaning out the window. Muffy looks a little worse for wear there. She said, I was hungry. I forgot to get dressed. She apparently forgot that there were other people in the house. And Arch wants to know, well, who made her night? Nan seems visibly upset. It's not going to play soccer with the rest of the gang. She said she's going to wait and see what Muffy wanted to do. So Nan sees Muffy and she's trying to get to her. Because it's obvious that Nan believes that Muffy was the one that left the crying baby tape where she could hear it. So Rob is upset. I forgot to mention this earlier. Rob is upset that he wanted to get early acceptance into medical school. And basically, his advisor told him, to forget it. Because his grades were good, but he lacks seriousness. And that's what the medical schools look for. And so he's kind of depressed. And he's telling Kit, I feel like I'm going nowhere, and she's like, I love you regardless, Rob. He said, oh, you feel that way about me now. Wait 2 years from now, and I'm a television repairman, and those other guys are. And she's like, yeah, you're a jerk, Rob. But she's just kidding around. She's planning on taking him into the boathouse, which, if you will remember, that's where Skip got attacked the night before. So, this is a horror movie, so we probably can expect that they're going to find out what happened to Skip here shortly. So they're making out in the boathouse, and it's Skip. Oh, Skip doesn't look too good. And Kit, screaming, Rob screaming. They think at first it's a joke. Rob says, Skip, you son of a bitch. And they're looking for Skip, but they don't see him, which leads them further to believe it's a April Fool's Day prank. So Rob says, where's Skip? Anybody seen him? And Nikki says, who wants to know? And Rob gets mad. Can't you give me a straight answer? So Kit says, he looked dead. He was floating by on this boat and or raft or whatever. And he wasn't moving unless he was joking. So they also think that it could be possible that Buck is, picking them off, because Buck had that unfortunate accident where part of his face looked like it was come off and his eyeball hanging out and stuff. So they found Skip's knife. And, Art says, you think it was a guy on the ferry? And Art says, him or Skip, somebody's got to be around here. We should, of course, they do the thing that you should never do, but they do it in horror movies all the time. They split up. And Muffy is acting very strangely in addition to the other stuff that's going on. She's wearing very drab clothes. She's acting very bizarre. And Nan has cornered her. She says, I know why you're avoiding me. This is your idea of a joke. That's why you invited me here. And Muffy's playing dumb. I don't have any idea what you're talking about. And so we see Arch in the woods. He's looking for either Skip or Buck or both of them. Ooh, and there's a snake. And that doesn't look like a friendly snake. It doesn't look like my pet snake. My pet snake, Ash. Notice that diamond shaped head. That looks like a poison snake. Uh-oh. So he's got the double whammy. He's stepped in a booby trap that has strung him up upside down, and this snake is striking at him. And somebody's came along, kicked the snake away, but who is it? We don't know. Now back to Nan, who is still very, very much upset, which I can't blame her. You know, if that had happened to me in real life and someone invited me somewhere and then did something like that, or I suspected they did something like that, I don't think I'd be too happy either. So Rob didn't find anybody. Chaz didn't find anybody, but where's Arch? Now Arch is missing. So Muffy is telling him, you know, Constable Potter has an office at his house, and Muffy's still acting weird. And she says, you know, I'm going to fix some tea. It'll help calm her nerves. And she's just very flat and very deadpan at this point. So Muffy has brought in about, what, 4 boxes of tea because she said she didn't know what anybody would like. I don't think anybody's going to like anything at this point. So they're having trouble getting through the constable. And now it appears that the water main is broken. And so Kit's like, there's no water. So Muffy says there's still the well. Nikki says, Jesus, I'll go. And Hal's going to go with her. Here's something else weird. She gets Skip's name right, but she calls Arch Art. She said, I'm not worried about those two, Skip and Art. It's like, why are there not 5 alarm fire bells going off here? I know it's a horror movie logic. But I think if a friend of mine who was all prim and proper and sophisticated and a socialite and all that, the night before they were fine, and the next day they were acting like somebody that's escaped from a mental hospital, I think I'd be asking some questions. But again, this movie would be over before it got started, I guess, if people were smart enough to ask the right questions. So Hal's telling Nikki he'd really like to plow her field. And I think that we all know what that means. So the rope was rotten and the bucket fell down into the well. And then Nikki's trying to help him with the flashlight. She drops flashlight in the well. And she says, okay, so I spazzed out. We're even. And Hal says, well, what are we going to do? And she says, there's little rungs leading down the side. And he says, so? And she says, so you better get a move on. He said, are you crazy? I'm not going down there. So she's like, well, I'll go down there because I don't relish the thought of spending a whole weekend without water. And she says, Harvey, I'm a big girl now. I think I can handle a few spiders and frogs. But what else could be down there, folks? Let's find out. So one of the rungs broke. Nikki's in the water now, and oh no, Arch's head. So we know what happened to Arch, right? And now we know what happened to Skip because there's Skip's head. And so Nikki's panicking and she's trying to grab onto the rungs that are remaining. She falls back down in the water. Now Hal decides he's going to go down there. Oh no, Nan is in there too. It's like two heads and a body. And we didn't see what happened to Nan, but apparently somebody took her out as well. I just think I saw a goof there that I didn't remember seeing before. It looked like Nan opened her mouth wider. It was like that. I'll have to go back and watch that again. So Kit's saying, it's okay now. No, it's not okay now. They got a bunch of dead people in the well. But she said, we're inside. The others were outside. Big freaking deal. Somebody killed them. So Hal wants to know, where does Muffy keep her guns? And she's like, guns? We don't keep guns in this house. That is the ugliest outfit I believe I've ever seen that Muffy has on. So Nikki's scared of water, and Muffy says, it's okay. It's Perrier. So Constable Potter finally got back in touch with them. And he's saying, Arch, Skip, and Nan. He's telling them what happened. And he's blaming on Buck. And he says, that ain't possible. I'm at the hospital now visiting Buck. And it does appear that he's in the hospital. Or at the hospital. And then Rob says, was Muffy? And he says, what are you saying? But we don't, at this point, we don't know what Constable Potter is saying. But apparently Rob says, just get here as quickly as you can, basically. We need somebody here right now, or as quick as somebody can get here. So he tells the rest of them it wasn't Buck. He's still at the hospital. Constable Potter's been there with him. And he says he's coming as soon as he can. He's going to send up a flare when he gets there. And then they're all going to go down and go with Constable Potter. But he wants them to lock everything up securely and stay inside until he gets there. But that's only good. Hint, hint. if the offending party is outside. If the offending party is inside the house, it's a toss up, right? Chances are really, really good that you're not going to be safe whether you lock yourself up or not. And had this been a Friday the 13th movie, you wouldn't have been safe anyway because Jason would have thrown a dead body through the window and climbed in. Or hiked down a door or whatever. So Kid has found a picture in what's going to turn out to be Muffy's father's office of twins as kids. And Muffy comes in and says, my father's study. And Kid says, I just came in here and make sure everything's secure. And Muffy says sometimes with the tides, it could take somebody all night to get here from the mainland. And she says, and even then, sometimes they don't make it. And Muffy is acting even more bizarre, in my opinion. She just turns around and walks away after saying that. So here we're going to see, Hal was asking about guns. Well, he has his own gun, apparently. So he's stuck the gun in the back waistband of his pants, and he's covered it over with a vest. So finally, Nikki says what we've all been seeing is that Muffy's been acting less than normal today anyway. And she says, you mean you guys haven't noticed the clodhopper she's been walking around in? And then she goes on to say the nurse's shoes. And then this is when Hal says he heard Nan and Muffy arguing something about abortion. And then that's when people start to say, I found something in my room too. And Chaz apparently didn't find anything in his room. If he did, then he's not revealing it. And he wants to, get Hal's goat. So he says, I spent the night with Nikki, Harv. Just making a big point about it because he knows that Hal likes Nikki. So he's pushing Hal about the car accident newspaper articles. And Nikki says, see, what I want to know is how did Muffy find out about the stuff and why? And Kit breaks in and says, stop it, you guys. What about the talk we had about friendship and loyalty to each other and all that? And she's about to say, that Muffy apparently has invited us all here too. And then she stops because Muffy comes in the room. She says, I'm going upstairs to my room. And she says, this is my home. I'll be in my room. Got a little bug in here that's flying around my light and flying around my face. So Hal says, okay, we can spread out a little bit, but, stay in shouting distance of one another. So Chaz has gone upstairs with Nikki. And Rob says he's going to go up to the attic. And Kid wants to go with him. So Hal's like, all right, everybody, I'll stay down here and watch everything down here. It's a really small bed that Muffy's got there. So we see that Hal is going to go sit on the steps. He's making sure that his gun is all secure there. And I don't know what he's looking at there, but a brochure or something. So Nikki is going ahead and throwing her clothes into the suitcase here. And Chad says, what is it? What are you doing? She says, what does it look like I'm doing? She's like, I'm going to leave this place. And once I leave this place, I'm never coming back. And Chad says, we're supposed to stay together. And she said, oh, yeah, that's been real effective. He says, well, what are you going to do? Go to the end of the pier and wait for the porter to come and check you in and pick you up. And she's like, I can't stay here anymore. And he says, well, if the constable never shows, and she said, I'll swim to the mainland if I have to. Then all of a sudden he's like, okay, you relax. The wardrobe choices are very strange too, because we have Chaz in a vest with a V-neck t-shirt underneath of it and sleep pants on. And he's had those on, from the morning until now. So we got a little less than 30 minutes left of the movie, and this is going to be the last quarter of the movie. And things are, soon going to get relatively ramped up as far as things unraveling, things coming to light, what exactly is going on here. So Nikki has went in the other room to get more of her clothing to throw in her suitcase. And she comes back and Chaz is still on the bed. And he's got his hands over his nether regions. And she's like, what am I supposed to do? Take off my clothes and climb on top of you? And she says, well, forget it. And then she says, what is this? Show and tell? And she says, oh, come on, Chaz, just say something. She knocks his hands away. And yeah, it don't seem like good old Chaz going to be doing any women any favors now. Because he's missing a very important appendage. So now we're back to Kit and Rob up in the attic. Oh, goodness. And, they're waiting for Constable Potter because Rob thinks that they could see Constable Potter coming, or the flare that he's going to shoot off better up in the attic. And so Rob is telling Kit that Constable Potter said no one's to be left alone with anyone else. Don't trust anyone else. And he said, especially not with Muffy. And Kit says, What do you mean by that? Rob said, well, he wouldn't explain. But, he's known her a lot longer than we have. So now, remember the little Ken and Barbie dolls that were there at the dinner table? Um, Nikki says, no, Rob, it's not just the dolls. She's been up here, apparently referring to Muffy. So there's a bowl of water, and Nick, um, Skip and Arch and Nan's bodies and heads appear to be in there. And then that is an ugly doll there with the blonde hair, but that is supposed to be apparently Chaz and Nikki, and their clothes look all bloody and they're laying on a bed. So, so there's the trick doorknob that comes off. So Rob says, I can't find Harvey or Hal. I can't find anybody. So he's thinking, we should get out of here. And, ooh, there's a lot of blood in that room. And, basically Rob says, forget Muffy. And she says, but she's my friend. So they're trying to get into her room. And, oh no, somebody has killed and hogtied Harvey or Hal. Guys and gals, I'm not, if there is anybody in here, I'm not going to take myself out of the stream, but I'm just going to step away for just a second. Okay. Oh, hit my knee. That was not good. Oh, but apparently I didn't eat enough earlier, and now my blood sugar is acting up. So they found the boat, but they don't see Constable Potter, and they also can't find the key to the boat. But they did find a letter from the state hospital, apparently. They're saying Miss St. John has been a patient and is still considered incorrigible and dangerous. So Rob says, we got to go back up there because didn't Muffy say there was another key to the boat up there? And of course, Kit's like, we can't go back up there. And now they notice that all the doors have been closed. So Rob says, there's where we're going in. So they're sneaking into the basement. There's a lot of blood on the floor. And they open the furnace, and all Muffy's clothes from like the day before are in there, burn up. So now they're seeing Muffy and Buffy. And Kit makes a connection. The girls in the study, the picture of the twins. She says, Rob, it's not Muffy, it's her twin sister Buffy. And now they see the painting, and there's eyes back there. Whose eyes are they? And Rob's telling Kit to pull it away, and she's scared, but he's like, go ahead, pull it away. Oh no, it's another head. It's Muffy's head. And Buffy is out there hammering the windows closed. So they're looking for the boat key. Oh no, there's Buffy. So now Rob is locked in the room, and he can't let him out because she's being chased by Buffy. This was always the scene that I remembered even years after I had seen April Fool's Day for the first time, was the scenes of Buffy and how she looks now, very crazed, um, chasing Kit, and especially here in just a second where she's going to jump up on the table. Because mainly because that scene right here um, was a scene that they would show on the back of the VHS case whenever because I rented this for the first time. That's how I saw it for the first time. I don't think Buffy's going to let you go. So Kit turns, opens the door, and bam, everybody's up there and they're alive. What in the heck's going on here? So Kit is very cautiously looking at Buffy, who smiles and shows her that it's a fake knife. So there is no Buffy. This was Buffy who was acting, and everybody said April Fools. Now, for those of you that have read the novel, the novelization of this, and there is Buck. Buck's good too. This is going to turn out to be a prosthetic. That there was more to the story, and there was actually more to the movie. There were scenes where um, everybody laughed, but they were kind of a little bit peeved at Muffy for tricking them. And they go back to play a prank on her. And there's some other stuff that happens. I won't go into all that detail. But if you can get a hold of the novelization for April Fool's Day, it's is an adventure in and of itself. I have read it more than once and enjoyed it. So Muffy's going on to say, what this is like a murder mystery type of deal. And it's a way for her to be able to keep the house. Um, she says it's a script for a weekend special. It's going to help me keep the house. Now, she says, I get the house next month as part of my mother's inheritance, but only if I could show my father that it could carry itself. And she says there's going to be expenses and taxes. And if she can't make a go of it, he was going to sell it out of the family. She doesn't want him to. So she's going to turn it into a country inn, but not any old run of the mill country inn. It's one that's going to be offering a once in a lifetime whodunit weekend. And she said I had to try my idea out on somebody. But she also will go on to say that, for the guest, the paying guest, it will not be as extreme and they'll know what they're in for. So she says there is a crazy twin, but his name isn't Buffy. Skip is her brother. Skip is the twin brother. So Buck is a makeup artist, special effects makeup artist. He's not really a ferryman. He says they were just old props I had around that I dressed up from Muffy's photos. Um, the constable is her uncle, Frank St. John. So Cal is really a ferryman. He was just helping out. And Rob says, Muff, you were really lucky. You could have gotten killed. She said, I nearly did with Harv there. That's probably concerning the gun. And who could have known about the snake in the woods with Arch? She says, I do regret some of the fake clues I put in the bedrooms were taken a bit too seriously, and she was sorry about that. But they were extreme. Things dealing with abortion and car accidents and stuff like that. But in all reality, it appears that Nan is the only one that was really disturbed by it. Even Harv or Hal was not disturbed, so much so that he's not having a good time now, and he was the one that found the newspaper articles on car accidents. So now everybody's having a good time. And Mama Told Me Not to Come, which is not a sex song, folks, by, I believe I can't remember now if it's Three Dog Night or the Guess Who. I want to say the Guess Who. No, it is Three Dog Night. Yeah. Hey, Menelect. I like to say I know my music, but it's a little late in the day. So, but Mama Told Me Not to Come is a song by Three Dog Night. That was the song that was playing in the background if you have the audio going. And it's about, this person who goes to a party and there's drugs and alcohol and Lord knows what else going on. And they say, Mama told me not to come. That ain't the way to have fun. So now Muffy has made her way back to her bedroom. She's taken the fake news down. She's visibly drunk. And there's a present wrapped in paper that has oranges all over it. I mean, it's pretty, but it's just kind of odd. And this part coming up here really has no payoff either. I guess without having that extended ending that relates back to the novelization and probably relates to the original script, they had to do something to kind of tie it up and have a April Fool's type of ending. So someone has given her a gift of another Jack in the Box. This one appears to be plain, doesn't have like the little pictures of the little duckling and stuff like that on it. And Muffy's kind of like, I can't believe somebody would do this. So she's actually going to turn the handle on this all new Jack in the Box. So she puts it down like, I'm not going to do it. And then she does it. And Nan comes up behind her, appears to cut Muffy's throat. And then she looks at Nan. Nan is laughing. The fake knife has a little bulb with fake blood in it. And Nan's laughing and says, April Fools, kisses Muffy. And then they break the fourth wall. Nan does by looking at the camera. Then the little jester there, the little joker, winks at us. And then we are at the end of April Fool's Day and we go into the song Too Bad You're Crazy, which I always thought this was a funny song and a great way to end the movie, with the lyrics, Too bad you're wacko, how sad your marbles are gone. We could be dancing till dawn, but you're too weird for words. And it goes on and on and on. So I always remembered this song at the end of April Fool's Day as well. And I was probably like many of you were that saw April Fool's Day way back when. I thought it was a standard slasher movie. And it may have started out as a pretty standard slasher movie, but it kind of turned things on its ear. It was one of these where, we thought everything that was happening was real within the movie, and it turns out it was something altogether different. But it's still one I enjoy. It's in my catalog of films to watch around April Fool's Day. In fact, the whole month of April, I celebrate April Fool's Day. That may be a little bit of cheating a little bit, but, when your time is limited, and I know that a lot of us that work, whether it's outside the home or work remotely, we've got kids, we've got pets, we've got family obligations. Sometimes we don't get to watch things like April Fool's Day horror movies, if that's our thing, on April Fool's Day. Now, I did manage to get April Fool's Day watched on April Fool's Day, but I still want to watch Slaughter High and Killer Party, which are also April Fool's Day related movies. The Too Bad You're Crazy is performed by Jerry Whitman with Linda Harmon. The music and lyrics are by Charles Bernstein, who has done music for several films. Mama Told Me Not to Come, as I told you earlier, is performed by Three Dog Night. And then we have a pretty small cast for this film. And I do believe this was filmed in Vancouver. So it wasn't filmed in the United States. It was filmed in Canada. We're seeing the glorious old-fashioned Paramount, a Gulf Western Company logo. And that's all she wrote, gang. We are officially at the end of April Fool's Day. I want to thank everybody that popped into the chat, everybody that was maybe watching along but didn't feel comfortable getting in the chat. I thank you for being in here as well. I want to thank in advance anybody that will watch this on the replay. Let's try to get some more people in for the next watch along, which won't be this coming weekend, but will be the following weekend. And let's make these something that can be really fun, because like I said, you guys and gals are voting on them, but I'm not getting, at least this weekend and maybe the weekend before, I'm not really getting a response. And again, if it's the time, if the time's too early for you, if you would better be able to come into these, if I had them later, please let me know. I am open to suggestions. So I just want to make these a fun thing, a thing that everybody's going to enjoy. And as of late, they, even with the voting going on and me giving y'all an opportunity to vote on a choice of 3 different movies for each of the 2 nights that I do watch-alongs, the response has been overwhelming as far as the voting part, but not so joining in. And nobody says that you have to chat in here. I do like, people chatting because it gives me a chance to interact with you. It also gives you a chance to interact with others who may be in the chat. Um, and, if there's any other changes that maybe you'd like to see me make, I am open to suggestions, folks. I just want to make these things, as well as the other streams and videos, a fun place for you guys to be able to come and hang out, especially these live streams. Keep in mind, I do have the movie roulette thing still going on. Like, no pressure. I'm not trying to say that you need to give another super chat. But everybody else, if you want to see me watch or want to see me review a movie of your choosing, all you got to do is during any live stream, including watch alongs that I do, if you get a $5 or more super chat, you can pick any movie of your choosing for me to watch and do a review on, folks. Okay, any movie. So I guess that is all from me for tonight. I've got a few things that I need to do before I get settled down completely for the night, and then it's back to the old grind tomorrow at about 7:30 in the morning. So I want to thank everybody that did turn up for this watch along for April Fool's Day. And with all that being said, I'm off like a dirty shirt. This shirt ain't dirty, but I'm off like one. And I want to remind everybody, as I always do before I get out of here for the night, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. Have a fantastic, what is left of your Sunday, folks. And I'm out of here, but I'll see everybody next time.